Welcome everyone, Joya Goodrum here with the McMinnville Chamber. We have a presentation today with Elsie from the SBA Portland office, so I'm going to turn it over to her. And thanks for being here, Elsie, and look forward to hearing what you have to tell us today. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Joya said, I go by Elsie. My name is Ashley Lambeth Christian. I work for the SBA Portland District Office as an outreach and marketing specialist. A little bit about my background, just so that you all kind of understand the e-commerce portion of this. I am a serial entrepreneur, so I've owned several different businesses, including several online retailers. I currently own a home decor online retailer. And through all of my business adventures, if you will, we had some really great successes and some really fall flat on your face experiences. And so that kind of led me to wanting to help others, to hopefully help them to avoid falling flat on their face. So I started teaching at the college level down in Southern California. So I teach for Miracosta College. I actually still teach for them today. And from there, my dean reached out to me and said, hey, you know, the Better Business Outreach Center, which is funded by the Small Business Administration or the SBA, they could really use some help. So they asked if I would go over and help them. So I started working with the VBOC. I started learning more about the SBA and all of the different programs that are offered with them. And that's what led me to being in front of you today, because now I can spread the message to even more people. So this is kind of how I got here. So let's kind of jump into this slideshow here. Where's my slideshow? Oops. All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit about e-commerce. This will be a super fast crash course. I did send this PowerPoint link over to Rhonda already so that you all have access. There are slides on here, just as a heads up, that I'm not going to deep dive into. I literally put them on here so you can click them and go directly to the source. And so this is just kind of an informational tool for you all. We already went for this. So my agenda overall, we're going to talk a little bit about what is e-commerce, what are some e-commerce options that you may have, so platforms for you to look at for your site, platforms that you're able to sell on. We're going to talk a little bit about the basics of running an e-commerce, talking about branding and marketing, search engine optimization, analytics, and then resources throughout the presentation to help you on your e-commerce journey. So I know we're a little bit of a smaller group today, but how many of you, it looks like I can't see the chat box at this point. So, oh, there it is. Okay. So how many of you already have an e-commerce or have an idea for an e-commerce? Throw it in the chat box if you have it. Excellent. So travel gluten-free, that's awesome. So already have the podcast going. Fantastic. Okay. So I'll watch to see if anything else pops up as we're going through. Want to sell my book, t-shirt, and other items on my site. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So it's great that you're already thinking about e-commerce things because the e-commerce industry is growing, as we all know, very, very rapidly. So it's been growing 23% year over year for a very long time now. What's crazy about this is a lot of small businesses that I talk to still, almost 50% still do not have any type of website, whether that's just a general website or the ability to share and sell online. And this can be something that can be a really big downfall, especially in this day and age when a lot of people will search your business just to make sure that you're legitimate by looking for a website, looking for social media. And so this is something that can be really important. There are roughly 24 million e-commerce stores worldwide. A lot of people will see this as, oh my gosh, it's just so competitive. You know, I'm not going to open an e-commerce business because there's just too many people out there. But the truth is about only 1 million of those 24 million are actually active and making any type of money through any type of promotion or anything. So there's a lot of websites out there that aren't actually up and running. It is estimated that by 2040, 95% of shopping will be done online. So, and already about 94% of people have either continuously purchased or have made at least one purchase online worldwide. So by the end of 2022, so by the end of last year, the online retail market reached $16.6 trillion. So huge money to be made, giant industry, lots of growth that's available there. Why is it? There we go. So the importance of having a website, even if you're not planning on doing specifically e-commerce, as I mentioned before, is to establish and confirm the legitimacy of your business. It also is going to help you to increase your sales. It's going to increase accessibility. It's going to align your branding. And then it gives you an opportunity to educate about your business. So it gives you an opportunity to put more information out there about your product, about your service, about who you are or what you stand for. And so having any type of website is going to definitely help with some of that. Some really great things that have been happening within SBA. Obviously, SBA is recognizing how important e-commerce is, and so there are different tools and things that you can use. Within the last couple years, the SBA went in on a joint co-sponsor agreement between Business Forward and the SBA to put together what's called the Small Digital Alliance. And so you can, again, these are all live hot links. You can click directly on this and see some of those tools and resources that they have to help guide you with your small business and building your e-commerce. So what exactly is e-commerce? It's electronic commerce. It's a business model that allows for individuals to buy and sell items over the internet. What's great is you can do this with all different sorts of business models. So whether you're doing business to business sales, consumer to consumer sales, business to consumer, or consumer to business, you have all sorts of different options on an e-commerce site. You can even do multiple at one time where you're doing business to business or business to consumer. So lots of different ways to set up that model. The things that are all involved in e-commerce is going to be your website design, your social media is going to play into that. Analytics are going to play a really huge role in that. Having customer management systems set up or CRM, it helps with your branding. And then it's also going to be that search engine optimization and how you're directing traffic to your e-commerce site. So there are definite pros and cons to having an e-commerce business or having in brick and mortar business as well as e-commerce. If you have both, it's additional income, right? So you have more money potentially rolling in. You have reduced costs if you just have an e-commerce business set up. Your site is available 24/7. So if you have a brick and mortar, you have to have specific hours that you're open, or if you are open 24/7, you have to cover that with all of the different labor. So online, available 24/7, you could be sleeping and making money, which is fantastic. Oh my gosh, your cat, Lynn. It's like staring straight into the camera for a second. You can do increased selection or exclusive selections. And so this might be something that you may not be able to offer in your store, right? It eliminates any type of geographical limitation. So when we do have a physical location, a lot of times we're limited to, if we need foot traffic or for people to come directly to us, we're limited to like a 20-mile radius. And so this opens all of those different barriers. You can have more targeted information or more abundant information. So if I have a product on a shelf, it's just that product box and whatever's on the product box. Whereas online, I can list all of the different specs, the materials, how it's made, where it's made, so you can list all those different things, what its uses are, so you can do a lot of that different information online. The other thing that's fantastic about online e-commerce is the easily accessed analytics. And so for a lot of these online websites, they're able to automatically track who's coming in, what they're buying, how long they're, spending sometimes in your store, how many carts have been left. So you're able to see all that different information so that you can tailor products and services or tailor marketing to the individuals that are actually dropping into your store. So it allows you to see more clearly who your customer is and what their wants and needs are. The cons of having an e-commerce store is there can sometimes be limited or delayed customer service. So if you are asleep and somebody, across the pond is asking you a question, you're not going to be able to get to that until you wake up in the morning. There's also delayed gratification, right? So they have to wait until something is shipped to them or emailed to them. And so it does have that delayed gratification from just being able to grab and go. There's also the downside of the inability to touch or to try products on or to try them out. And so how many times have we seen the YouTube videos where they're like, I purchased this beautiful chair, and then they get it and it's, 3 inches tall. It's a dollhouse chair. And so the inability to actually see it can increase the returns for products. It can be highly competitive depending on what type of products and services you're selling. And so there's an increased need to be able to stand out and be unique and really understand our customer to be able to drive that marketing forward. And then, of course, there's unavoidable technology issues. So generally speaking, unless there's some kind of crazy situation going on, if you have a brick and mortar store, unless there's some kind of massive natural disaster, you're able to kind of keep that open, whereas and still do sales, right? But if there's technology issues, so if a server goes down or something along those lines, a lot of the times that's out of your hands and you can't do anything about it until it comes back up. And so it may limit your ability to actually do sales, right? So advice before starting, if you don't already have a business and you're thinking about opening just an e-commerce business, there's no specific requirements around e-commerce. However, if you're doing business, you'll want to have a business license in the city that you are doing business in. I know that we don't have tax here in Oregon. However, if you are wanting to purchase wholesale, you'll want to get a reseller's permit or they have, this is all listed as one because depending on what state you're in, it's going to have a different name. So there's a reseller's permit, seller's permit, sales tax license. And then you can also file for a tax ID. This will allow for you to sell, to purchase wholesale items, even though we don't charge tax here in Oregon. If you are doing business in more than one state, and we'll get to this in a little bit, you may need to get a seller's permit in that different state, depending on how much your traffic you're driving or how many sales you're doing. You definitely should consider getting a business bank account or a separate account, particularly if you are generating lots of sales. If you are using your regular checking account, they will shut it down. So they'll see all these different deposits coming in and your bank will actually shut it down if you don't have a business bank account. Also, for just accounting purposes, it's best to have a separate banking account. And then you want to consider looking at insurances. So liability insurance, product liability if you're manufacturing and selling any type of products. If you have more than one employee, you must have workers' comp insurance here in Oregon. It's illegal not to have it and you can be fined for that. And insurance it's the most economic way to protect your business. So definitely most of us would be able to afford, $100 a month versus, getting sued for $2 million. So this is the most economic way to protect yourself. What you might need when you're doing business is an assumed business name. So if you're not using your full legal name as your business name, then you'll need to file for what's called an assumed business name. So as an example, if I just opened ashleylambethchristian.com, then I would not need an assumed business name. However, if I opened lc.com, then I would need to file for an assumed business name. if you don't want to use your social security number, then you'll want to file for an EIN number. Here in Oregon, if you have employees, then you'll need to get a BIN number in order to pay those employees. You also may want to consider different types of business entities. So you can go in directly as a sole proprietorship. There's no paperwork that would be needed for that. But if you wanted added protection to make sure that, you know, your personal assets like your house, cars, personal bank accounts, things of that nature are protected, then you may want to incorporate into something like an LLC or C Corp. Depending again on what type of business you are doing, you may need a home occupation permit. So if you're planning on having a lot of deliveries or people coming by the house or shipments or anything like that coming directly from your home, then you'll need to get a home occupation permit from your city. Basically, this is just so that they can determine whether or not your street is able to handle the additional traffic to the area. And so you want to have that. And then there's also occupational permits. So if you are using your online site for selling something like a service, like massage therapy, or maybe you're running a salon out of your home, then you would also need those specific licenses or permits in order to continue to do business from within your home, right? So here is a fun one. Choosing your business name or choosing a domain name is one of the most important decisions that you can make, right? So the idea is this is the first thing that people see about you. So this is the beginning of your brand. It's the very first impression that people are going to get of you. And as we all know, words are some of the most powerful things in this universe. And so it's going to invoke a specific response immediately for people. And so you really want to think carefully about your name, right? So my advice would be to say it out loud a lot. When you're considering domain names, write out a whole bunch of different ideas for domain names. And do this before you start searching. Have different options available, and I'll explain why in just a minute, but have lots of different options available for your domain name before you start searching. Sometimes they're already taken, and so you're not able to use them. Have other people read the name out loud a lot to make sure that they're pronouncing it correctly, that they can pronounce it. Make sure that it's easy to read and say and understand. You want to make sure to double check spacing and logo design. So sometimes with logo designs, it's going to sometimes show things that you didn't intend to show. And so I'll show that in just a second too. Sometimes it's good to add the benefit in the name. And so Lynn, I noticed that in your domain name right away. That it has the benefit in the domain, which is great. So people know exactly what they're looking at, exactly what they're getting into. You want people to be able to find it easily, especially on a search engine, and especially when you're brand new. You're not going to pop up necessarily on maybe the first page of Google. And so people are going to need to be able to spell it correctly to be able to find you. Be careful of initials or acronyms. So they can be boring, they can be confusing. And so you want to be really careful of just using acronyms. Use a name that means something to you, means something to the brand, will invoke something within your specific target customers. And as I mentioned before, come up with multiple options. And then if you're planning on going global, research what that name means in other countries, okay? So sometimes our names won't translate well into other countries. And so here are some examples of things that did not transfer well. So as an example, the last name Dung in other cultures wouldn't be a problem, but here in the United States, obviously that's associated with feces, right? So we want to be careful. I don't know if I want to eat at a place that has that name, right? This kids exchange, you can see what that looks like without the proper spacing, right? Worst deli, Am I Gone Funeral Home. So these are all things that, you know, bad sushi. you can't tell until you get up close that that's best and delicious is what it stands for. But from across the parking lot, it's just bad sushi, right? So these are things to consider. Like I said, if you're looking at new names, have other people read them, have them kind of check it out too. Before purchasing a domain, you want to check with the United States Patent and Trademark Office to make sure that it's not already in use. Again, this link goes directly to that search engine where you can search those different names. You can also search international trademarks using this link. And the reason why, even if you're not planning on trademarking your information right away, or your name right away, or logo, you want to make sure not to infringe on other people's, to make sure that it's not already taken. There can be financial and legal consequences for using a trademark without permission. And this can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you want to make sure that you avoid that. Also, if there is a registered trademark with your specific name, after 5 years, it's basically incontestable. So if you have a domain, they can legally take that domain from you in some cases. And so you definitely want to make sure that you check that first. If you're looking at local businesses, you can check with your local county clerk's office to see if there's anyone local who has the same or similar name as well. Secretary of State will also have business filings that you can look at too. So the domain search, the other thing that happens too, the reason why I said hold off on actually searching your name until you're pretty sure and have multiple, is because on domain name searches, sometimes what will happen if you're not ready and you just want to see, I just want to see if this one's available, or I just want to check this one out, they will actually skyrocket the price. So you'll see it for $5.99 and you'll search a couple of things, and then you'll come back, and the next day it could be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. We actually experienced this with our clothing store when we were looking at, we had a physical location and it was called Monroe Boutique. Since we were talking about my daughter's middle name, we named it after her. And we were looking at different variations of Monroe, and it was like $7 the first day we were looking at it. And then we came back the next day and it was over $5,000 for that particular domain name. So just keep this in mind in some of your searches, that you want to be ready to purchase right then and there, and so have several variations available. You can purchase your domain name in a ton of different places. This is just some of the top ones that are used for starting businesses. So Squarespace, Weebly, Whois, Shopify, Namecheap, GoDaddy, Google Domains. Again, these are hot linked, so you can click on them and check out the different variations of their pricing and what they have to offer. A lot of times too, when you get into a website platform, so someplace like Shopify or Squarespace, a lot of times they will offer domains with their packages as you're building your website. And so they can add it with their packages or have it as add-ons. Generally buying a year or more is going to be cheaper because you've got that whole bulk packaging situation. You can purchase off the platform. So at some of those ones that I was just had listed, but you want to make sure that you check that it will be compatible with the platform that you're planning on using. And so you want to kind of look at the fine print to see if there's any costs associated with transferring the domain name, see if you're able to transfer the domain name. So sometimes if you purchase, it'll say only compatible with these particular platforms. And so make sure that you're reading that fine print. Make sure that you also read the fine print for what they do with your personal information. So some of these websites will have very clear, we do not sell your information, we don't share who the owners are, addresses, any of that situation, but some of them will sell that information or share that information. And so make sure that you're looking into that. You want to look at upfront pricing and renewal fees. So sometimes you'll come across a domain website that's like 50 cents to purchase this domain, but then it will renew in 6 months for $500. And so making sure that you know when it's going to renew and how much that'll cost you in renewals. And you don't need to buy all of the different extensions. So .org, .edu, .shop, you don't need to buy all the extensions. Again, there are pros and cons to this. Most of the time, a .com is going to be the easiest for shopping experiences, right? And it can get really expensive to purchase all of the different extensions. Also, when considering your domain purchase as well as your platform that you choose, you want to look at their customer service policies too. So some of them have essentially zero customer service, and it's just like, okay, you get the domain name, see you later, have a great day. And other times, if there is some kind of issue of being able to transfer it over to another platform, or if you need guidance on that, they will have customer service to provide that. So you want to look at those customer service pieces too. Okay, so as far as platform options, again, I have a whole bunch of these slides listed. These are just for you to be able to click and compare. And so, generally speaking, so this one is just this is a Shopify. Most of them look very similar to this if you're going on kind of a pre-made template website like Shopify or Squarespace. And so you'll have, you know, the ability to put in different orders, put in your different products, be able to see who your customers are, check out analytics. So all this is on the left side of the screen, by the way. You can start marketing campaigns, you can apply discounts, you can add different apps. So you can generally search with apps that are compatible with that platform. And so you can add things like shipping or tax things. You can add connections to different social media. And so there's lots of different apps that you can use there too. And then you can also adjust your online store on there as well. So they're pretty easy for the ones that are pre-templated. They're pretty easy to be able to do on your own. So this is just showing more. They'll also a lot of times have like a university or training program within. So you'll see this one has a video for Shopify Compass, get started, guided tutorials. So they'll have a lot of that information. Also with a lot of these pre-templated type platforms, they'll have customer service and people that can kind of help you through the process of building your store, or give you advice, or check them out. So you can customize your theme. I'm going to skip through this a little bit here. So again, this is going to be, if you click on these, it's going to pull you directly to their purchase. So you can look at their different packages and kind of compare. Let's see if this will let me do it, and let me know if it actually pulls up the website on your guys' site. Can you all still see my screen? Okay, and it's showing the Squarespace, perfect. So you want to look at all the different things that are important. So one of the big ones to look at is going to be these transaction fees. So depending on the package that you choose, they may charge you 3% on each transaction, whereas if you're planning on doing more sales, then you may want to get into a 0% transaction fee. And so you want to look at this. These ones all have free domain, which is great. So that's something to look into too. Maybe consider which platform you want to use to see if it has the free domain, so you're not paying outside and having to work on the transfer. There are also plus sides to having the template. And also downsides. So the plus side is it makes it easier for you to build out. The downside is customization becomes a little bit more difficult, right? Advanced, let's see, check out, I'm trying to see. So like in this first one, for just like a personal one, there's no analytics. You can't see who's coming or anything of that nature. So I'm just kind of comparing. And if we go back to the next one, we can kind of see. So ones like Wix and WooCommerce. So my first website that I ever had was through WooCommerce. I am not a website designer. I am not great at all of the IT tech build out things. And so I hired somebody. The great part about Wix and Woo and well, I clicked on it, so now we're going to see it. Is that there's a lot of customization. So you can do pretty much whatever you want to those. A lot of them are open source. So you can change the shopping carts. You can do all the things that you would like to make it absolutely custom for your brand and for what you're looking for. So on this one, you'll see that there's different costs for different storage space on this one. Video hours, so how many videos you're allowed to have on there. And then the types of customer care. So this is another one that we talked about earlier, is looking at those customer care, right? Business and e-commerce plans, what's included with these. So it looks like pretty much storage space is unlimited on the most expensive one. So just kind of making sure that you can compare and contrast of what's important to your business for you to be able to be successful. I'm going to skip through these ones. So this is just me and my husband just rebranded. So we ripped down everything off of our website and rebranded. And so this is like where it's at right now. It's still not perfect. It's still not great. I literally took these photos yesterday. We haven't even done the relaunch. So this is kind of where we're at. So you guys can see a little bit of how this is just an easy Shopify drop shipping website for this one. Again, BigCommerce, WordPress, these are open source. So you have access to all sorts of different apps and add-ons there. When we're talking about our target markets, you really want to narrow in on who your target customer is, especially when you're doing e-commerce. And so we want to really consider who is most likely to hand over their dollars to us. And how do we speak to them? So what type of platforms, social media platforms are they using? How are they doing their shopping online? What are they purchasing online? Are they purchasing products like ours? And how do we speak to them? Where do we find them in an online universe? So really starting to think about that and really breaking down. So we want to start with who would benefit from our product. We want to get really, really specific. So if we're selling some kind of coffee or something along those lines, and we have, very frou-frou drinks based off of our research, we found that women, particularly moms, because we never sleep, they drink the most coffee, right? So we're looking at, we want to get more specific. We don't want to just have all moms. We want to look at mothers who are working full-time, who are within a 10-mile radius or within our shipping radius, who drink coffee more than 2 times a week, or who spend more than X amount of money within a month on coffee. And so we really want to start breaking that down. Think about our demographic data of age, sex, location, income, education. We want to look at psychographic data like lifestyle, hobbies, interests, opinions, beliefs, social class. What social class are they part of, or what social class do they think they're a part of? Buying habits. And again, what those buying habits look like online, right? And so really getting into that, who is our target market, so that we can tailor our marketing messages to them online, right? A lot of these online social media or even with your platform will allow for you to send out specific marketing campaigns, and you can choose who you're sending that out to. So you can send it out to, male, female, non-binary. You can send it out to those specific groups. You can look at their age range. You can look at their location. And so you can make sure that your marketing campaigns are reaching who it's supposed to, but you need to know who that person is first, right? So we really want to make sure that we have that down to a T. When we're doing our research to try to figure out who is our target customer, there's all sorts of different resources that you can use. So I've listed government resources here. So Census Bureau, the SBA resource list is phenomenal. And it has like 30 different resources that you can use once you click on it. So it'll show you, and you can use those depending on what industry you're in or what you're specifically looking for. There may be different industry specific research tools that you can use. If you are doing any type of food, International Food Information Council will have a lot of information. So a lot of times associations or specific publications will have a lot of free research for you, or you can consider signing up to be a member and you'll get a lot of that information as well too. So if you're part of any of those associations, you can get some really great information there. And then Google Trends is an excellent place to look too, because it's going to tell you what keywords are trending, how many people have searched that term, how many in your specific area. And so it really, what is that word associated with as they're searching? So there's a lot of ways that you can use that Google Trends. News articles, research firms, blogs, competitors. So you want to look at your competitors, you want to look at their website, see how navigatable it is, see what they have going on, what they have listed, what kind of information they have. And so really kind of looking at that, because you can steal some of their wonderful ideas and then also see what they might be lacking so that you're able to better what's already being done. Oh, right. So I don't know why this is, when we're talking about social media, again, when you're talking about email, excuse me, I'm reading the title. We're talking about campaigns, marketing campaigns. Different groups of people are going to use different types of social media, right? And so Twitter, you're seeing that the younger generation is not using it as much. The 50 plus is not using it as much. It's generally those 25 to 34-year-olds that are using it, and 35 to 49. So you can kind of see who's using it most. So you can also use that to help market your message. So maybe if we are trying to hit the 50 plus, Twitter's not the place where we're going to find them, right? So maybe we look somewhere else. One of the stats that I found really interesting was email marketing and how successful email marketing can be for nearly all age ranges. And so you can see over 80% can be found here. You want to look at your open rates and conversion rates when you're using email marketing though. And so seeing who's actually opening it, how often, and seeing if there's anything that you need to shift. But this was just kind of a quick, you know, if we're wanting to, on different social media platforms, if we're wanting to reach younger, then we're using things like Snapchat, which I guess is going out of style now too. They're very quick to change, but for a while it was Snapchat and TikTok, and now, you know, there's new things coming in. If we're looking at Facebook, we're looking at the over 35-year-olds. And so really looking at those different who's using what, so we can figure out what type of email campaign to put together. So those were just some examples for you. It's also important, if you are deciding to use email marketing, that you are familiar with the different laws in regards to email marketing. And so in the United States, we have the CAN-SPAM Act. And again, these are linked so you can look directly at them. So there's Canada's, Europe's, Australia's. So there's different ones that are listed here. Basically in the United States, you want to ask for permission to add somebody, to add them to your marketing list, email marketing list. You want to store their consent somewhere. You always want to allow an opt-out or unsubscribe button. When you are contacting them, you want to immediately be clear, either in the subject line or one of the first lines of who you are and why you are contacting them, right? Excuse me. You may also want to remind them of, hey, you're receiving this message because you subscribe to our email list, right? And so you want to make sure that you're also acting honestly and presenting true information, right? The thing is too, is with email marketing in the CAN-SPAM Act, even if you are up to, you know, making sure that you're hitting all of those CAN-SPAM Act, checking all the boxes to make sure that you're following those legal requirements, your team, if you have a team, if they are infringing on that CAN spam or are doing things that are illegal with email marketing, your company can be held legally responsible. And so you want to make sure that everybody is on the same page with understanding exactly what that CAN spam act means. All right, so I know that I'm going through this really, really quickly. And the reason I also forgot to say this in the beginning, this presentation is normally an 8-hour all-day presentation. And so I have tried to condense it as much as possible so that we could fit in the time frame that we had. And so even still, as you know, this is a very complex topic. There's a lot that goes into it. E-commerce is constantly changing. And so we're just briefly covering the surface of what e-commerce is and just getting a general idea. Like I said, I left a lot of the links in here so that you can just get an idea of kind of what you should be looking at and have access to them so you can continue to research them on your own. Let me pull up, I do see that there's some questions.
I'll see there's a whole bunch of questions here that,
yeah,
so Lynn asked, how much did e-commerce grow during the pandemic?
That I don't know. I know that it was major though. I do remember seeing stats on it. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head though, but it's huge. And it is kind of dipping off just a little bit now that we're able to go buy things in person again, but
yeah,
definitely skyrocketed.
I think so many of us did a lot of our shopping through things, you know, places like Amazon and Instacart, to name a few, and a lot of door dashing for people as well, you know, food being delivered. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Let's see. If you wait a few more days, will the price of the domain go back down or does it stay up there?
I have never continued to search it after. I do know that there's also individuals that can see what has been searched on certain websites, and they'll actually purchase the domain to like hold it ransom. So I know that that's something that occurs too, which is crazy, but I don't know how long it would take for it to go.
Cottage industry, right?
What was that?
It's a whole new cottage industry. People doing that work. Let's see. Do you have someone you recommend to help build a Squarespace commerce page, e-commerce page?
I cannot recommend specific individuals to help with anything like that because we're a federal agency. I can't outside of our resource partners. However, I do know that some of our resource partners, as far as like small business development centers, women's business centers, things of that nature, will have people that are really great at those sorts of things, or may have specific tools and resources to look for. I also know that on some of the platforms, you can pay to have them build them out for you. So on the different platforms, you can call them and talk to a specialist, and for a fee, they'll build it out for you. So I know that that's also a possibility as well.
Okay. She also asked, do you have a local drop shipping company you can refer to? You can refer her to.
I do not. So we're doing, so specifically for drop shipping, we do like interior design type stuff. And so within like the food industry, I don't really know. We currently use Wholesale to Be, which is a drop shipping. It's almost like an Amazon for drop shippers. And so you can pull from different drop shippers there. I will have coming up, Lynn, a whole list of different wholesalers and different companies that you can look at too. And those are linked in this presentation as well. So
awesome. That's great.
So we still got a whole bunch more to go through. I just saw that there was a whole bunch of questions in here. And it's been a while since I have done the full course. But if we see that there's enough of a want, we can maybe present that, the SBA may be able to present that, and we can, yeah, we can discuss that in the future. As of right now, I don't have one scheduled, but it, you know, obviously is a kind of important topic. So
that's great. Thank you. Thanks for answering those questions.
Yeah, Absolutely. So just taking a break for just a second. So to jump back in, obviously, if you're doing e-commerce, you're going to need to be able to take payment method. And so the preferred payment method is credit card. So 53% of transactions are still done with those. But then digital payments are making their way up, so things like PayPal and different types of cash apps and stuff are increasing. But either way, once you have your e-commerce set up and you set up your shopping cart, you're going to need to set up a means of payment. And so you have to figure out, are you going to accept, credit cards? What types of credit cards? Are you going to accept things like PayPal or Venmo or Cash Apps or whatever the case may be? And so you have to figure out how you're going to be taking that payment. And again, just like everything else that we've talked about today, there are pros and cons to each one. And so generally when we're talking about fees, you'll have either transaction fees or percentage of sales that are going to be tacked on. And so usually fees for payment processing are going to sit somewhere between 20 and 35 cents per transaction. And sometimes they'll also incur a 1 to 3% charge on top of that. So they'll consider this referral fees. You also want to, when you're considering different types of payment processors, you want to make sure, again, to check compatibility with the website that you're building or with the platform that you're using. A lot of times when you're using the templated ones, you can pull apps that will allow different payment processing that are directly within the platform to help with that. You also want to check compatibility with your bank. So sometimes you'll get a payment processor that won't work with your bank or vice versa. And so you want to make sure to check into that too. And then making sure that you have your price high enough. So especially when if you're considering something like drop shipping, there's not as big of a margin, right, when you're talking about drop shipping. And so you want to make sure that you're priced high enough to cover any of those processing fees on the front end as well. So.
And Elsie too, I don't know, I know that annually I have to go through and fill out some form for, security purposes. And it actually helps our, the cost of what it cost us to do a lot of transactions. And so I think that's really important for people to be aware of that as well, that if you are taking payments via credit cards, that there are you could be paying higher fees simply because your website doesn't have all the bells and whistles and the compatibility and the
right.
The security. So
right, the security measures. And that's another thing too, when looking at it, talking about security measures, a lot of people, if they don't see that security lock at the top of the website, they also will not shop with you. And so those are things to consider too. Now, cybersecurity stuff is definitely not my forte in my wheelhouse, but I will tell you that Mount Hood SBDC is phenomenal with their cybersecurity. And they do a lot of partnering with like the FBI cybersecurity team and with MasterCard, all sorts of really big name people and companies, and they provide really excellent cybersecurity training. So that would be a place to look into for those details.
And just a shameless plug here, we have one of our local businesses here will be doing a cybersecurity presentation. Their tagline is check everyone, trust no one. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How much time do we have here? Okay. So in this world, nothing is certain except for death and taxes, good old Ben Franklin. And this is also true of your e-commerce. So as I mentioned before, if you're only selling here in Oregon, then maybe it's not a particular problem unless you're selling a specific product that needs to be taxed. But generally speaking, we're not collecting taxes. But if you are selling in other states, or if you are purchasing wholesale, you will need to have that reseller's permit in order to purchase those wholesale products, because they want to confirm that you're a business and not an individual. So you'll still want to have that. As I mentioned before, there are apps that can help you with taxes. So you can pull those different apps and they can track the taxes that you owe in different states or different localities. In the United States, if you have sales of over 100,000 in a different state, you will need to get a seller's permit. Some of the states are 250,000, but in most states it's 100,000. In 5 states, there are no sales tax. So that's Oregon, New Hampshire, Montana, blah, 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 Alaska. So these are the 5 that are listed. So the other huge consideration as you're putting your kind of store together is how do you want to ship and what carriers are you planning on using? I can tell you that the #1 reason why people leave shopping carts is due to shipping. So it's due to shipping and confusing checkout process. So they may be absolutely in love with whatever it is that you are selling or whatever you are providing. And then they get to checkout and they see that it's $10 shipping and they're like, nope, I'm out, right? It has even been statistically proven that they will find the exact same product and pay more, which would probably include that shipping. But because it says free shipping, they feel like they're gathering something from it, right? And so that's one thing to really consider is how do we make it appear that we have free shipping or, cut down our shipping prices. So you may need to add an app. So Shippo, ShipStation, you can add those to. You want to consider your packaging options. So those are going to change the weight of things. So is there lighter shipping that you can use? Is there, in order to decrease the amount of returns that you get of broken product, is there better ways that you can package something to prevent any type of damage, right? You want to consider your shipping zones and how long it will take to ship to different destinations. And then you always want to include your shipping policy. So you want to include your shipping and returns policy on your page, make it easily accessible. You want to include it sometimes in your checkout of, hey, this will take X amount of time to ship to you. We're using this particular shipper, so on and so forth. We will take returns within X amount of time, yada, yada. So making sure that you have all of that kind of laid out so people know what to expect from your store. Shipping fees. So with shipping fees, this is your process to accept and complete orders. You can assign different codes. So basically you want to put together sorry. 1 second. Where's my mute? All right, sorry about that. Working from home with the households here. So you want to consider your process to accept and complete orders. So you can put together an app. You want to have a way of fully tracking how you're going to do this from the moment that you receive the order to the moment that you approve the order, package it, ship it out. And so you want to be very specific in how you classify your items. So a lot of this is going to be inventory management control as well. So making sure that you have all of those items assigned to different codes. So it's easy to find, easy to ship, easy to take out of inventory. Most platforms will have inventory control options where they automatically count it down. The one thing that I can say, if you have an in-person, so a physical location and an online store that's sharing inventory, be very diligent about removing those items immediately out of your inventory. We did have an issue a few times until we got the hang of it when we had our clothing store on the beach, and also our online clothing store at the same time, where we would run out of inventory in the store on a busy day, and then we would have something sell online. And so we didn't have it connected as compatible. So they weren't speaking to each other as far as the online and in person, they weren't connected. And so that makes for a very, disappointed customer, right? And it doesn't look great. And so make sure that you have a way of tracking both of those things. This is just kind of a brief picture of what the different zones are and the cost for shipping across the United States. And so you can see the different from zone 1 to zone 8, how expensive it can be and what those increases look like. And so this is just an area to kind of research of what the different zones and shipping means for you, right? All right, so let's talk about branding. So branding is a way of identifying your business, right? So if I say, Coca-Cola, you automatically have an image in your head of what Coca-Cola is. You have an idea of what their company stands for. You can probably picture a commercial, the different colors associated with them, maybe even the taste of a Coke, right? It's how your customers recognize and experience your business. And so having a strong brand is more than having just a cool logo or cool colors. It's everything, right? From your customer service and style, how you're handling leads, how you're speaking to customers, how you're following up with customers, to your staff uniforms, to your business cards, marketing materials, advertising, all of it is all kind of combined in what that brand is and what that image is. And so our website should reflect all of those things, right? And so when we're talking about branding, again, this includes our logos and slogans. It establishes your company within an industry. It helps you to stand out. It may convey your purpose to your customers. It's going to increase company awareness, so people being aware of your brand. It's going to remind existing customers of your products and services, your customer service and training. So you really want to spend a lot of time, if you do have employees, and working on that customer service and training and what you want them to bring forward, because again, this is going to be part of what's in the mind of your customers. You can have specific colors, themes, or fonts. So you may have noticed when I was showing you all M's house earlier, the colors for that are kind of this off-white, gray with golds. And so it'll be a combination of those colors. And you can do that in your website too, to help kind of promote and strengthen that. And you can also use some of that in your advertising and marketing to keep that brand image kind of going. A lot of the platforms that you will use will have free stock photos. The upside to this is that it's easy. You can search them, you can throw them on there, and it'll make a really beautiful website. The downside is that there's a lot of other people that are using the same tools, and so you may want to differentiate your website. So you can, for free on some of these while you're building your website, and until you get more photos of your own that you've created. You can use things like Unsplash, Pixabay, Adobe. You can get 1 month and 10 downloads for free. So if you're just trying to, get up and launched. I also put a list of additional free resources or low-cost resources here too, where you can go and pull images from. When you're putting together different photos and content, you want to also look at the platform's media requirements for resolution and size. A lot of times people would think that the better the resolution, that it's going to be better for their website, right? It's going to be clearer. It's going to have these great photos that pop. But if the file is too big for what the website requirements are, it'll cause your website to run slow, which will be a turn off to your customers. It'll make it less easily navigatable. And so you want to make sure that you look at what those requirements are so that you can have the right size resolution, size and resolution requirements. Your photo content doesn't always have to be of just your product. And so I pulled this off of Amazon. It's just a little tent, right? And so it does show the tent. It shows the qualities of the tent and all of that, but it also is showing the vibe, right? What are the possibilities? What can you do? We're out having fun, camping with our friends, having a really good time. And so it can be more lifestyle photo as well. And so I recommend using both. So that you can convey that message of the benefit that you're bringing, right? It's not just a tent, it's an experience, right? You're creating memories. And so you can add different types of content as well. Once you do start taking your own photos, you want to take a ton of photos. Okay, just keep snapping. Not all of them are going to be great. That's okay. It's very rare that you get it in the first shot, right? Even professional photographers that do that for a living, it's very rare that that first shot is perfect. So only a small percentage of those are going to be really great. So keep snapping away. As I mentioned, you're going to have two types, which photos, which will be the featured and then also the lifestyle type photos. If you are taking your own photos, lighting is incredibly important, okay? So some kind of tips and tricks for you for outside photos. Overcast days are wonderful, right? Because it gives just the right type of lighting. It kind of screens it out. You want to avoid any broken shadows. So if you are trying to take a picture under a tree, you don't want for there to be like a shadow over somebody's face awkwardly, right? So you want to watch for those broken shadows. Ring lights are fantastic. So ring lights, umbrellas, flashlighting. This is when we start getting really complex. Light boxes are really great. So you can see a photo of a light box on this slide. The thing is that you don't have to have these things, okay? You can get really creative with just a cell phone. Okay, you don't need super fancy cameras. You can get really creative. I've seen people create their own light boxes by using natural light in their windows and butcher paper. Use things that you have on hand. And so you can, pull little flowers or, just little trinkets from around the house to help decorate like that photo of the shoe, right? We probably have some, costume jewelry or something laying around that we can pair with that to make that photo pop a little bit. And so use what you have on hand. It doesn't have to always be something crazy and expensive. I would recommend investing in some kind of tripod, even if it is just for the cell phone, so that you can get the still photos and get very clear pictures of what you're trying to do. And then if you are using watermarks, be really careful of where you place the watermark, because sometimes this can go over what it is you're trying to sell, right? And so be careful of where you're placing that so that it doesn't actually prevent you from being able to sell your products. So here's just some examples of how important lighting can be. So you can see where the lighting is terrible in some of these and great in the others. And so just some examples of how important that is. This is a great place to go to get inspired if you're trying to figure out what is this lifestyle versus, product thing that Elsie is talking about. This was a boutique down the street from us in San Diego, who their social media is just fire. Okay, they have the best social media. And so they do an excellent job of mixing that lifestyle and the vibe and bringing that brand forward, along with showing off their new products, right? And so this is a great place to go and get some ideas about that. When we're talking about digital marketing, you want to decide what your focus is for your campaign, okay? It's very difficult to shoot for everything at the same time. In fact, it's nearly impossible. And so you really want to decide what your marketing campaign is going to be used for. Is it going to be to increase awareness of your business and what it's bringing to the table? Are we working on conversions, right? Are we working on just getting kind of clicks and flow to our social media sites and to our websites? Are we trying to get people to download something from us? What type of, or are we looking for some type of engagement of, hey, tell us about your favorite thing, or hey, share this with a friend. So what exactly are we trying to achieve? And that way we can really focus what our marketing campaign is going to be. There are different types of digital marketing. So you've got your pay-per-click, which is basically you put in X amount of dollars. So as an example, me and my husband were just looking at some pay-per-click through Pinterest, and putting $35 there, it's 10 cents a click. And so for every person who clicks on your ad, they charge you 10 cents up to $35, and then your ad is pulled. And so this is where pay-per-click comes in, and you can do this on lots of different social media platforms. You've got your different paid search ads, banner ads, which are the ones that are going to be at the top of the screen, display ads. You can do Google Shopping campaign or Bing product ads. So you can have those on the, when somebody's searching on like the Google search bar, your ad can be on the right-hand side of the screen. And then there's also search engine optimization. So you really have all of those different tags or words that are going to be associated with your product. And so when they're put into search bars, it'll pull your product up. So as an example, if I was selling this beautiful water bottle right here, it would be, water bottle, plastic bottle, drinking, right? And so you want to make sure, what is the name of this? Purified drinking water, having all of those different things that might be associated with that water. And that way your items are going to pop up. The more, also the more like webs that you build. So if you have different social media platforms and you're mentioning, or other people are mentioning your store, people are specifically searching your store, the more that you kind of build this web, so you might tag another business and then they talk about your business. So the more you build that web, the higher up on different search engines you're going to be. There's kind of a dark joke about where do you hide a body? And the answer is on the second page of Google search, because nobody ever goes there, right? And so that's one of the things you want to continue to kind of build that web to get up in the Google search or Bing search, right? So we talked a little bit about email marketing, affiliate marketing. This would be hiring other people to hype you. So this is, again, going back to building that web. So they're mentioning you in their blogs, they're mentioning you on, Instagram, they're mentioning you on their business page. And this is all linking back and building those webs. So we are not going to have a whole lot of time to run through all of this. So just as kind of as I mentioned before, places that you can click and look through. You can sell on things like Amazon, Walmart, Marketplace, Etsy, eBay, Newegg, different areas of social media. And so again, you want to consider the pros and cons of doing so. There are different definitions when you're looking at them. And so generally speaking, when you hear manufacturer, it's either you're manufacturing it or you're having it manufactured. Wholesale is purchasing goods in large quantity from someone and then retailing it and selling it to others. And then arbitrage would be buying retail goods at a discount. So this would be like Costco, where you can go get great deals, you buy a whole bunch at a discount, and then you resell it. And so there are different phrasing that it's important to know when you are getting on some of these selling platforms. Drop shipping, which I mentioned is what my husband and I do, is the seller chooses a supplier or product. And this is our first drop shipping company. The rest was all wholesale retail. So you choose a supplier or product, you list it on your website. The customer orders the product, and then the supplier ships it for us, and then we just handle customer service, right? So we never have to handle the shipping, packaging, manufacturing of a product, which is great, right? There are different ways to also connect and sell on different platforms. So obviously Amazon is a huge one. There's a little video here that kind of talks about the startup. The thing about on Amazon is you have to decide whether or not you want to actually handle the product. So you can have those products. So let's say that you're doing arbitrage. So you have found discounted items and you want to turn around and sell them at full price on a place like Amazon. You can have all that product in your home and package it and sell and ship it yourself. Or you can do something like Fulfillment by Amazon or FBA by Amazon, where you ship it to them. They break it up to their different distribution centers, and then they package and ship it for you. This does come at a cost. And so again, that would be less margin potentially for you. But it really depends on how much of that do you want to handle on your own. And then also FBA allows for it to be part of Prime, which means people are getting it, sometimes shipped same day within a few hours. And so again, pros and cons to that, but that's the one big one to really consider on how you would like to go about that. There are also really amazing search tools. This one's Helium 10. This was a free plugin version. There's a lot of different ones out there. There's Jungle Scout. Off the top of my head, I'm blanking on the rest of them, but there's a whole bunch of them. There's free versions, there's paid versions, but the important thing to look at is you can do different searches. So this was just a quick search of women's pajama set, right? And it lets you know the total revenues over the last 12 months, average revenue for people selling this product, the average price it's selling at, average reviews per item. But then it's also showing you the star rating. So because it's so competitive with so many different sellers, it's showing that this may not be the best thing to get into, right? And so if you're looking for a more unique product, this is already a really competitive space. And so there are different extensions that you can download for looking at different products. So like I said, this one's Helium 10. There's a bunch of different ones for looking at that. This is another part of the tools for product research on Helium 10. It actually will give you a full breakdown of the inventory levels that you should keep on hand, keywords that are being used by your competitors, helping you with the phrasing and things for your listing on Amazon, and also profitability calculator. And even if you're not planning on selling on Amazon, this is a great tool to use for your e-commerce store too, because of how competitive Amazon is right now. Most people are going directly to Amazon. And so being able to compete with Amazon by looking at some of those is a great thing too. And within the profitability calculator, you can put in either your own shipping costs if you're planning on shipping, or the FBA shipping through Amazon too. And so you can calculate all of that in there. When you are looking at different manufacturers to manufacture a product, whether that's for Amazon or someone else, or for your own personal site, one of the big things to look at is minimum order quantity. So for some manufacturers, they can have as little as one. You can just be like, I want you to produce this one item for me that I'm going to sell. For others, it might be 10,000 units that are the minimum order quantity. And so when you're looking at different manufacturers, that's one of the big things to look at is what is the minimum order, and do I need that many? Can I afford to do that many? Do I think that many are going to sell, right? Because that's a big upfront cost. Definitely have samples made so that you can see the quality, quality, and make sure that that's what you wanted developed, and that it's going to be satisfying for your customers. And then now, especially since COVID, the supply chain is still a little wonky right now. And so if you are having anything made overseas, it's going to take a very, very, very long time to get over here. And so these are other things to consider as well. Alibaba is one of the top ones for searching for manufacturing things. It makes it pretty easy, but again, this is an overseas. So this is probably the number one that's used for Amazon. Again, pro is that it's easily accessible. The con is that there's a lot of con artists on Alibaba. And so you have to do your due diligence to make sure that they're an actual manufacturer. The other downside is that a lot of these are overseas manufacturers. So here are some other Amazon wholesale type places that you can check out. There's also UK directories. So here's a whole bunch of directories for you all. Again, I'll send, you'll have this directly. Walmart Marketplace is actually great to sell on. So it's less saturated than Amazon, and it still has millions of daily users. And you can go with being a first party. So you're directly on their website. You can be a third party where they like show your picture, but it pulls to your website and you can ship it. You can be a drop ship vendor for Walmart. They also have, similar to Amazon's FBA, they have Walmart fulfillment services, so WFS. And so this can definitely be an option that's less saturated and a well-known. The pros to Walmart Marketplace is there's no monthly membership fees. You can list as many products as you want. So this is actually increased since I wrote this. The cons to having Walmart is you must go through approval. So they have to check to make sure that they want to do business with you, that you're selling something that they want and that it's going to meet their quality standards. Walmart can also take a pretty significant referral fee depending on what category. This is the same for Amazon, eBay, all of the ones that we're going to talk about. They'll have different referral fees, and a lot of times they will actually adjust depending on what product category you're in. Your item must be approved. And if they see that your product is cheaper somewhere else, so like if you wanted to run a discount on your own website of just like, hey, 20% off today on this product or whatever the case may be, if they see that, they can drop you and drop that item. So, because they have to be the lowest price. So those are things to keep in mind too. Newegg, all of the same things, but Newegg tends to focus more on electronics and more of the tech field things. Etsy, great place if it's handcrafted or personally designed. Really easy page setup and maintenance. And has really great built-in analytics. You can see some of the costing here. eBay, again, can be a great place, but it can be difficult to figure out exactly what all of their fees are that are associated, because it gets a little wonky in there. And it is highly competitive. And so you really have to figure out a way to kind of stand out and price correctly. And so it can get a little wonky. You also must follow all of their rules. And this is the same for all of those platforms. You have to follow all of their rules for returns, customer service, refunds, all of that sort of thing. And especially on places like eBay, there can be, hey, I never received it, and you have to refund the money, even though, let's say, FedEx confirmed with a signature that they received it. Absolutely, you still have to automatic refund. And so something to keep in mind too. How are we doing on time? We are out of time for this. So you can sell on all of these. They have great analytics. So all the different social media platforms. You want to make sure that you're watching for all of your different analytic pieces. So return on ad spend, return on investment, cost per lead, particularly when we're talking about marketing, and conversion rate. These are the actual formulas that are here. So You can check those out. A lot of these will act as a CRM. So you want to use your platforms and have sign up email lists and that sort of thing to help track and take a look at who's shopping, stay connected to your customers, and this will help to increase your profitability because acquiring a new customer is 5 to 25 times more expensive than keeping an existing customer. And so you want to keep track of that CRM. This is all on CRM stuff. Also, if you are planning on going global, this is my last SBA plug here. The SBA does provide funding through Business Oregon for the state trade expansion program. And so this provides grants to small businesses for them to launch or expand their export activities. And these can be grants of up to $2 million. And so it can help you with launching an e-commerce. It can help you with international trade searches. It can help you to go to different trade shows across the globe. So this can be really helpful. So definitely something to look into for that grant program. So key takeaways for this, having a website increases your legitimacy. You want to carefully consider and compare options for your platform and domain name. You want to make sure to keep it legal, keep everything legal by making sure that we have all of our, tax resale permits and business licensing and all those sorts of things. You want to make sure that you are considering your target market, different branding options, where you can reach them, what social media platforms they're on. And then from there, you want to set up your payment, shipping, and taxes. And continuously analyze your progress. So look at all of those different analytics tools that are built in to your different social media, into your websites, and keep track of your customers through customer relationship management tools so that you can continue to build on that relationship. So with that,
Wow. Elsie, that was amazing. Thank you. There are a couple of questions. We have your contact information, and it is 2:31, so I want to be mindful of people's time. And so what I can do is send you the questions, or they can reach out directly to you and ask those questions.
Yeah,
Lynn had a bunch of questions too, so actually, maybe I'll just let Lynn email you with those questions if you don't.
Yeah, Lynn, absolutely. Feel free to reach directly out to me.
Yeah.
I do see like photos to her website. It really depends on the platform.
Yeah. Okay. Her contact information's at the end of the presentation, Lynn, and we'll send it to you.
Yep, that sounds great. Thank you guys so much. I'm sorry that I
No, oh my God, it was great. This was fabulous. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording and